You're listening to LoopIt Radio, hosted by Alex and Sandra.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different, actually quite unique. We're looking at a creator's reaction to his own past.
Yeah, it's fascinating source material. It's a video this huge YouTube personality recorded way back on October 4th, 2015. He was only 17.
Just a kid, really. And he set it up as a time capsule, to publish 10 years later. So he's watching it now as a 27-year-old.
And the contrast is just stark. You've got this nervous 17-year-old almost hiding his goals versus the guy who now runs this massive global media company.
Absolutely. We're talking about someone who back then was terrified of not hitting 1 million subscribers.
Right. That was his big benchmark for not failing.
And now he has something like 440 times that number across his channels. It's staggering.
It really is. But our mission today, it's not just about gawking at the numbers, right?
No, definitely not. We want to dig deeper. We want to understand the pressure cooker environment back then, the emotions, the financial stress, the strategy, or maybe lack thereof initially.
Exactly. What was really driving that ambition? What kept him going when, as we'll see, pretty much everyone told him he was crazy? We're looking for the why behind that incredible perseverance.
What's really interesting, I think, is how success like this often kind of papers over the early struggles.
Oh, for sure. You forget the scarcity, the insecurity. This video gives us a rare window into that foundation. We see the emotional groundwork being laid.
Okay, let's get into it then. We really need to start by painting a picture of 2015 for him, because it wasn't just about youthful dreams. There was some serious financial reality weighing on him.
Oh, absolutely central. His drive wasn't just like, I love making videos. It was rooted in something much more fundamental, desperation almost.
He mentions growing up in what he calls a normal middle-class family. But then 2008 happened.
Yeah, 2008. That looms large. His parents filed for bankruptcy.
And he says after that, they just had nothing. You have to imagine what that does to a kid, seeing your family's stability just evaporate.
It becomes this core memory, this driving force. Financial security isn't a luxury, it's survival. And that directly shaped his main goal as a teenager.
Right. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't about Lambos back then. It was a really desperate need to make money.
He explicitly says he didn't want to be a burden on his mom. He wanted to be able to provide for her. That's a heavy weight for a teenager to carry.
Yeah, taking on that provider role so young, it makes your career choices feel incredibly high stakes, existential even.
And this pressure created this intense internal conflict for him. Because by 2015, he'd already been making videos for years, right? Since he was like 11.
Pouring his life into it, as he puts it. But nobody was really watching, not in any significant numbers.
So you get these anxieties swirling. He actually voices them. Am I wasting my life? Am I going to be a failure? Am I going to be homeless?
Wow. Homelessness, that's not just typical teenage angst. That's the ghost of 2008 talking, right? That fear of losing everything again.
Exactly. It's directly tied to that past trauma. And then on top of that internal pressure, you layer on the external stuff, the resistance he faced.
Yeah, that's a huge piece of this. He wasn't just fighting self-doubt. He was fighting basically everyone around him.
Total skepticism.
Yeah.
He says people at school, adults told him flat out, you will never be a YouTuber.
This isn't realistic. You're chasing a fairy tale. Imagine hearing that constantly about the one thing you believe is your only way out.
It must have been incredibly isolating, which explains why he was operating almost in secret.
That anecdote about filming the 2015 video is so telling. He was supposed to be studying for a history test.
Mm-hmm. And he's whispering into the camera because his mom's downstairs, and he says she would freak out if she caught him filming instead of studying.
Think about that dynamic. He's trying to build a future to support his family, but he has to hide it from them like it's something shameful or wrong.
He even remembers his mom coming in to check on him during that recording session.
Yeah. Had to quickly pretend he was hitting the books. He even remembers the test and the grade he got later, apparently. Talk about a core memory.
So this secrecy, this lack of support, it's all happening while he's still trying to navigate the normal teenage stuff, like school.
Which he did finish. He got through high school. But college was a different story.
A very short story. He says he technically went to college.
For 2 weeks at a community college.
And the reason?
Yeah.
Starkly simple.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford real college.
That just slams the door on the traditional path, doesn't it? The backup plan of getting a degree wasn't really there for him.
Right. He says he found those 2 weeks super boring and quit, but you have to see it in context. If Plan A college isn't financially viable, then Plan B, the risky YouTube dream, suddenly feels like the only path forward.
No plan C. That makes the stakes even higher.
Absolutely. And it explains why his goal back in that 2015 video was so grounded, so practical almost.
Yeah, it wasn't world domination. It was just be able to provide for myself as a job. Subsistence. Independence. That was the dream.
That intense need, fueled by past trauma and present skepticism. That's the engine we're talking about. It explains so much of what comes next.
Okay, so let's pivot there. Because we've set the stage for 2015, the anxiety, the scarcity. Now let's jump to section 2 and look at the gap between those humble predictions and the mind-blowing reality of today.
Yeah, the shift in scale is honestly hard to wrap your head around sometimes. We have to look at the actual numbers he was aiming for versus where he landed.
The big one, the metric that defined everything for him back then, was subscribers.
That ultimatum he gives his future self. It's kind of chilling.
If I don't have 1 million subscribers when you see this video, my entire life has been a failure. 1 million. That was the line between success and, in his mind, utter disaster.
A single million. And where is he now?
Well, forget a single channel. He says he has dozens of channels with millions of subscribers.
Dozens. And the total tally, when you add it all up.
It's 440 million subscribers. Combined. 440 million.
It's not even the same sport anymore, is it? Going from fearing failure at 1 million to managing 440 million.
And that changes everything operationally. Think about the implications. The old goal was just supporting himself.
Right. Just him. Maybe help his mom.
Now he talks about providing for hundreds of families, having hundreds of full-time employees.
That's the leap from creator to CEO. Running an operation that size isn't just about having good ideas anymore. It's logistics, HR, finance, legal.
It's a media empire.
Yeah.
You need serious infrastructure to manage dozens of channels at that level, producing the kind of high-cost, high-production videos they do now.
Absolutely. You're talking teams for everything: creative development, production, post-production, marketing, analytics, brand deals. It's a whole different ballgame.
And this incredible growth, it didn't happen in a vacuum. It reflects how YouTube itself completely transformed over that decade.
Oh, massively. He actually reflects on what making it meant back in 2015.
Yeah, he remembers when 10 million subscribers felt like the absolute peak, the summit.
He mentioned Smosh, PewDiePie, hitting that number and thinking, okay, they've won the game. That was it. That was as big as it gets.
10 million was the ceiling. If you got there, you were basically YouTube royalty forever.
But then the platform itself just blew past that ceiling. And he rode that wave, partly through strategy, partly through persistence, and maybe partly through luck.
So what changed? Why did that 10 million ceiling shatter?
Well, a few big things. YouTube went truly global. Internet access exploded in places like India, Brazil, Southeast Asia. The potential audience size just mushroomed.
And mobile viewing took over, right? Making it easier for people everywhere to watch.
Exactly. Plus, the algorithm started favoring different things. High retention, highly shareable content, often the big stunt videos he became known for, got pushed harder.
So suddenly, 10 million subs wasn't the peak anymore. It became almost common for top creators.
Yeah, he estimates there are now probably like 1,000 creators with 10 million subs. The entire landscape shifted. What was once the mountaintop is now just base camp for the biggest players.
That's such a key insight for anyone in any field, isn't it? The limits you perceive today might just be temporary, based on current tech or market conditions that are about to change radically.
He didn't just reach the old summit. He found himself playing on a whole new mountain range that didn't even exist in 2015.
And you see that scale reflected so clearly in the view counts. This is where it gets almost comical.
It really puts the journey into perspective. Let's go back to 2015 again.
Okay, 2015 channel stats, 8,000 subscribers.
8,000. Tiny compared to now.
And his total lifetime views across years of making videos, 1,830,631.
Just over 1.8 million views. That was the sum total of all that effort, all that struggle up to that point. He even remembers his old channel logo, a tiger.
Yeah, he said he missed it, but changed it because it looked like a high school mascot. But that 1.8 million lifetime views, that was everything then.
Now compare that to today. A single video on his main channel. How quickly does it hit that same number?
He says it gets 1.8 million views in like 6 minutes.
6 minutes. What took him years to accumulate then, he now achieves before his coffee gets cold.
It shows the power of that brand recognition, that audience loyalty. They're not just stumbling on his videos, they're waiting for them.
That initial velocity is huge for the algorithm too. It signals massive interest right away.
So the business metrics, the scale. Completely unrecognizable from 2015. But interestingly, some of his more personal predictions were a bit closer to the mark.
Yeah, it wasn't all wild misses. He predicted he'd be married by now.
And while he's not married, he points out he's engaged to his very beautiful fiancée, Thea. So closer than the subscriber prediction, as he notes.
Definitely closer than being off by a factor of 440.
And maybe the most important personal prediction or hope was about his passion for it.
Yeah. The 17-year-old hoped his future self would still actually enjoy doing YouTube.
And the 27-year-old, he seems absolutely certain. I don't think I'll ever get tired of YouTube.
He talks about loving the creation, the storytelling, the entertaining, feeling like it literally runs in his veins.
That core passion seems to have survived the transition from lonely teenager to, media mogul, which is pretty remarkable.
It is. But achieving that, maintaining that focus, especially during those incredibly lean early years, it came at a significant personal cost.
Yeah, let's dig into that in Section 3, because that level of obsession, while necessary for his success, definitely led to some serious challenges with isolation and even his health.
The human cost is real. When you're that hyper-focused on a singular goal, especially one that seems alien to everyone around you, social connection often suffers.
He was completely consumed by YouTube in high school, right? Thinking about it, talking about it constantly. Ideas, analytics, how to improve.
Oh, YouTube, all the time. And for his peers, it was just weird. It wasn't relatable.
Which led to that really painful moment he describes. Some kid came up to him and just laid it out there.
Yeah, brutally honest, as teenagers can be. All you do is talk about YouTube. No one cares. Ouch.
Imagine hearing that. It cuts right to your core when that thing is not just your hobby, but your entire life plan, your hope.
He said it really, really badly hurt him, and the effect was drastic. He just stopped talking about it, completely shut down.
To the point where the silence was so noticeable, one of his teachers actually asked him if he was mute.
Wow. So he went from being obsessively vocal about his passion to being completely silent because the social feedback was so negative.
Yeah.
That's a heavy psychological burden.
He talks about struggling really, really badly to connect with people. His focus made him feel like a freak, like he just didn't fit in anywhere.
That sense of being an outsider, of having your core interests perceived as bizarre, that's a tough spot for anyone, especially a teenager.
It really highlights that pursuing something radically different often means walking a lonely path, at least initially. You have to believe in it when no one else does.
The turning point for him wasn't changing his passion, though. It was changing his environment.
Exactly. He realized later it was okay to be obsessed with something. He just needed to find other people who got it.
When he finally connected with other creators, other people who loved storytelling and YouTube as much as he did, that feeling of being a freak started to disappear. He found his tribe.
So the problem wasn't the obsession itself. It was the context, the lack of shared passion in his immediate surroundings back then.
Right. And alongside that social isolation, he was dealing with a major life-altering health challenge that started around the same time.
Yeah, the Crohn's disease. That's a really significant part of his story.
He mentions being super athletic growing up, playing sports like crazy. Then, boom, at 15, he gets diagnosed with Crohn's.
Which is, for anyone unfamiliar, it's this chronic condition where your immune system basically attacks your digestive system. Pretty rough.
Incredibly rough. He says it caused him to lose something like 60 pounds. He struggled just to get out of bed some days.
And it's not something that just went away. He notes that even now, when viewers see him looking low energy, or his word, soulless, in videos, it usually means his Crohn's is flaring up.
It's this constant underlying battle he's fighting, even while managing this huge enterprise.
You know, it's interesting to think about how that diagnosis might have intersected with his YouTube focus.
Oh, so?
Well, if Crohn's is making intense physical activity, like the baseball he loved, much harder or impossible.
Ah, I see. Maybe it pushes you to double down on something you can control, something you can do even when you're physically limited, like making videos from your room.
Could be. He mentions trying to balance YouTube with, 2 baseball practices a day plus schoolwork before the Crohn's really hit hard. Maybe the illness inadvertently channeled even more of his energy toward the digital world.
That makes sense. And it fits with that anecdote about the gallon of water.
Right. He says he used to carry a gallon jug around because he sucked at drinking water.
It sounds kind of quirky,
Yeah.
but it shows that optimization mindset already kicking in, doesn't it? Even as a teenager dealing with illness and intense schedules.
Totally. He's thinking, okay, my body needs this input to function under this insane workload. He's trying to systematize his own health to keep up.
That kind of self-optimization, treating yourself almost like a system to be managed for peak performance, that's a hallmark of so many top creators now. They're managing energy, focus, health, data, all of it.
And he was already doing that back then, applying it to athletics, health, and the YouTube grind, all while fighting Crohn's. It speaks volumes about that relentless drive.
That stubbornness again. Okay, so let's try to weave all this together now in section 4. We have the financial desperation, the external doubt, the isolation, the health struggles.
Huh?
How did that all forge the mindset that ultimately led to this massive success?
He sums up his own core identity pretty simply, doesn't he?
He does. One of the most stubborn people on the planet.
And you can see why that wasn't just a personality quirk. It was almost a prerequisite for surviving those early years. When everyone tells you no, you have to be stubborn.
That stubbornness fueled an incredibly stark life philosophy back then. He lays it out there, no ambiguity.
Yeah. I decided that I was going to be a YouTuber or I was going to die. Those were the only two outcomes of my life. When you frame it like that, failure isn't really an option you allow yourself to consider.
That's weaponized desperation right there. It explains how he pushed through what he calls the freaking struggle from age 11 to 16.
Thousands of videos, thousands of hours poured in for basically no audience and zero money.
But he looks back now and he's just glad his younger self didn't give up. He's grateful for that grit.
And you get a real sense of that struggle when he contrasts it with today. He laughs looking back at the 2015 video quality.
Yeah, the setup. Couldn't afford a decent camera, used a crappy little table, a cheap monitor he bought somewhere.
That image, the kid with the bad gear driven by sheer will versus the guy who now commands multi-million-dollar video budgets. It's powerful.
It really is. And it highlights something important. When you have zero resources, you're forced to rely entirely on the idea, on the hustle, on the sheer force of personality. Maybe those limitations actually bred a certain kind of creativity or resilience?
That's a great point. But he's also careful not to paint it only as a story of hard work paying off. He brings in the element of luck.
Which is crucial and refreshingly honest. He says, look, he worked incredibly hard. Very, very hard.
But the luckiest thing that ever happened to him was finding what he loved, creating videos at such a young age.
And that's not just, oh, I found my passion luck. It's strategic timing luck. He got really, really good at YouTube before the platform went supernova globally.
So when the tidal wave came, he was already on the surfboard, ready to ride it. He had the skills, the experience, the channel history.
Exactly. That early obsession, that head start, positioned him perfectly for the exponential growth phase of the platform.
And that deep-seated passion, discovered so early, is still what drives him today, he says, even with the massive scale.
Yeah, it's why he's still obsessed with making every video as freaking great as freaking possible. Yes. The love for the craft, for entertaining, seems genuine.
Even if the craft now involves, burying yourself alive or spending 50 hours in solitary confinement, the scale changes, the core drive doesn't.
And flowing from that, there's this constant thread of gratitude that seems really authentic.
Definitely. He keeps coming back to it, calling his life a fairy tale, saying he's beyond grateful to the viewers who made it possible.
I will never take this for granted. You really feel he means it, especially when you connect it back to where he started.
For sure. The success isn't abstract. It's the concrete opposite of that 2008 fear. It's permanent security, achieved against all odds. He imagines his 17-year-old self would just be on his knees crying with gratitude to the audience.
And he translates that journey into advice, but it's quite nuanced, actually. He recognizes his path isn't universally applicable.
Right. He explicitly says, hey, not everyone can just ditch everything and chase their dreams, especially if you've got people depending on you right now.
It's practical advice. He's not saying quit your job. He's saying find the time around your obligations.
Yeah, really try to find what you love in those margins, in the evenings on weekends. Because if you can find that thing, and if it clicks with an opportunity,
then, as he puts it, it's amazing. It's a realistic encouragement based on his own extreme experience.
So looking back at the whole story, it really is a powerful case study in turning all that negative pressure, the financial fear, the doubt, the isolation into fuel.
Absolutely. That relentless, stubborn belief in himself, born partly out of having no other choice, just powered through everything until he finally found that community, that validation.
So we've traced the arc. From the kid hiding his camera, terrified of failing at 1 million subs,
to the leader of a global company employing hundreds, reaching almost 500 million people.
The core takeaway seems to be this potent, almost volatile mix. Trauma-driven need, plus irrational stubbornness, plus finding your tribe. That was the formula.
And That act of documenting his goals back then, even in secret, it serves such a powerful purpose now. Looking back at that 17-year-old, hearing the doubt he faced it, must constantly reinforce his own resolve and remind him just how improbable this journey was.
That's a great point about documentation. Okay, so let's wrap this up with a final thought for you, the listener. This is where it gets really provocative, I think.
We saw very clearly how his biggest leaps happened when the entire perceived ceiling of his industry just got blown away. Remember, 10 million subscribers was considered the absolute peak in 2015.
That limit seemed real based on the tech in the market then. But within years, it became almost laughably low compared to the new potential. It was an artificial ceiling.
So the question for you is this: what's the equivalent 10 million subscriber metric in your field right now? What's that number or achievement that feels like the absolute pinnacle, as big as it gets?
And is it possible that that limit, based entirely on today's reality, is actually holding you back? Is it preventing you from even imagining what the true scale of your potential or your field's potential might look like in 5 or 10 years?
Think about it. If that 17-year-old had aimed for 440 million subscribers from day one, the sheer scale might have paralyzed him. Maybe the secret wasn't just aiming high, but aiming just high enough to keep moving forward relentlessly while never letting today's perceived limits define tomorrow's possibilities.
Thanks to Alex and Sandra for hosting today's episode. Catch you in the next one.